Here. Good girl. People. Get a little bit of frost to solidify the mud a little bit. And then this normally, rarely peopled field becomes very peopled. Annoying. Good morning everyone. My name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It's Sunday morning. It's just above freezing. I think it's been freezing overnight. It's going to warm up later though, so that's alright. Anyway, in today's video I want to talk about the Summer Wells case. Yesterday was Summer's 7th birthday. And there's been a lot of channels covering Summer at the moment, so that's nice to see. For long periods of time there's been not a lot to talk about in the Summer Wells case, so it's either rehash old stuff, which has its merits, don't get me wrong, it has its merits doing that, but now that Don Wells has come out speaking again to the world via various YouTube channels, it has given people things to talk about. Now you might say, yeah, but it's Don Wells talking about himself and being angry and shouting at people. And I really, look guys, I really can't condone some of the things that Don says. Don't get me confused by somebody who is trying to make excuses for Don. I'm not. Some of his language, some of the way that just the way he speaks sometimes is very off-putting. It can be very disconcerting. And these creator wars that are going on at the moment, I've got no time for that. I've got no time for that whatsoever. Tilly! As soon as I let her go, I've been holding her collar so when the people have gone. Come here!
6.5 hours later.
She doesn't listen. She's back to her usual naughty self after being very disconcerted over my demo yesterday. If you watch that video, it's regarding the Nicola Bully case. If you watch that video, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you didn't, go and watch it. And did a demo till he got a bit concerned. She was like stuck to me all yesterday. She didn't leave my side. But she's obviously slept on it now. And he's back to her normal self. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, not interested in the creator wars. I don't care who loves who or who hates who. Don't care. Don't care. I listen to information. And if that information is useful, then I'll talk about it, regardless of what channel it's on. As I said, I can't condone some of the things that Don has said. I really can't, and I'm not making excuses for anything he says that is, frankly, out of order at times. On the flip side of that, I do think that Don is being goaded in a way by some people, and he's got long-standing resentments that have got some foundation. Look, I can only say it as I see it. I'd be damn angry and all. And you might say Don Wells coming out, speaking to the world again via this YouTube channel and that YouTube channel. He's doing like multiple channels a night. I mean, I think I've watched a fair few of Don being on various panels, but I'm pretty sure I haven't caught it all. I have been trying to watch as much as I can whilst being really heavily invested in the Nicola Bully case at the moment. So I've probably not watched every single thing that Don has said, but I've seen enough to know that there's some useful new information that's come out. Little tidbits that have come out. So I'm going to play you a couple of clips throughout this video from Prayer Garden of America. Again, not interested in the creator wars, I'm interested in the information. So the link to Prayer Gardens live, where this happened is in the description box, and full credit goes to her. You might say, Don Wells coming out speaking, complaining about this thing and that thing, being angry about the CPS, being angry about his stepsisters, doesn't help Summer. Not directly, no, it doesn't help the case. Not directly. I mean, when Don spoke to Ansley Daniel from WJHL the other day, which I covered in a previous video, I did a reaction to that short interview with Ansley. And he was very angry about the CPS. We don't know the real reason why they're not allowed to see their boys at the moment. Is it continual failed drug screenings? Is it that Candus didn't turn up for meetings and things with the boys, visits with the boys? That's a speculation that's gone round. I don't know the truth of that. I really don't. But I think Don said one thing in that interview with Ansley, that if Summer was found alive, she wouldn't be given back to Don and Candus, not at this current time. She'd be put into foster care, just like her brothers. So he's right on that. And I hope they can clean up the act. I was hoping that when Don came out of jail, and he was silent, wasn't he? It's only very recently that he's come out and started to speak. You know, we're all like anticipating this big kind of outpouring of emotion and anger and whatever from Don back in October when he was released, and that did not happen. But they said on findsummerwells.com, now I don't think it's Don's writing, but maybe it's expressing Don's sentiment, that they're not going to be silent anymore, and maybe they're not. But it doesn't really help Summer, does it? But what it does do is it gives people the opportunity to discuss Summer. You could say, well, we've got virtually no facts. We've got a handful of facts that we've had since virtually day one. But yet this case, amongst the many thousands of missing child and missing adult cases, you know, hit the news. So much so that Don and Candus were invited onto Dr. Phil. How many parents of missing children get invited on Dr. Phil? Not many. That was done even though there's very few facts in this case. But it's partly due to Don being very vocal in the early days and continuing to do so until he was jailed that has helped Summer's case stay in the news. Certainly on social media. Not so much in real life maybe, but certainly on social media. And that's a good thing. Now, just before Don went to jail, you know, he was drunk, he was very disorderly. When he's drinking, he's a different guy. So I don't know whether when he's angry on these YouTube channels that he's drunk. I don't know. But the thing is, him coming out and talking, amidst all of the drama and the nonsense, and Don using inappropriate language and being very angry and blaming everyone else, there's some really interesting points being made. So one of them is about the footprints. Now this is really important. And as I said, I've watched a few channels over the last 24, 36 hours. Look, guys, I haven't slept much, all right. I've been heavily invested in Nicola Bully case, but I've also been watching a lot of the Summer Wells stuff as well. I'd say over the last 36 hours or whatever. I've been interested in the fact that not as many people as I thought knew about the footprints. So I've seen at least 2 channels and their followers, people in their chat, saying that they'd never heard about the footprints. And I was like a bit disheartened. I was thinking, I've been talking about the footprints for months and months and months. People have criticised me, saying that I focused on the footprints too much. I'm relying on the footprints too much. But I was quite disheartened when people were saying that they'd never heard about the footprints. And I wonder whether that's because they were so focused on Don and Candus and Grandma as the perpetrators that they've just ignored everything else. And the footprints, the scent alerts, are one of the most solid things we've got about this case. The most solid things we've got. So I have been disheartened, you know. I was kind of thinking, people just haven't watched my videos. I've got so many videos on the footprints, or including information about the footprints, that I just thought, well, but I'm not the only channel that has talked about the footprints. Cam and Ali from Cracking Cases have talked a lot about the footprints. But I guess when people put Cam and Ali or myself into a certain camp, then they just stop tuning in. But back in the, not in the really early days of me following this case, but as the case progressed, or as my theories about the case progressed, shall we say, I talked about them more and more. And maybe I can understand why people thought I was focusing on them too much. But they are one of the most solid things in the case. I'm going to play you this clip from Prayer Garden of America now. And it was a woman, another person.
2,000 years later.
Come here. She does a big circle and she goes again. She's so naughty. This is why in original audio, videos get disrupted like this. Tilly! And then she laughs. You laugh, don't you? You laugh, don't you? She says, get that camera out my face. I had a bad enough day yesterday. Yeah, you think it's funny. All right, so where was I? Yeah, I'm going to play you this clip. Now, this was a woman who I've never heard from before. And she said she's got experience with tracking dogs. Dogs don't lie. And she came up on panel in Prayer Gardens live when Don was on the panel, and then there's someone else on there as well. So let's play you a couple of minutes about Don talking about the footprints.
Let me start with the scent dog. They smelled her clothes. We watched. Well, me and Candus sit here and watched the whole thing happen. So they took some of her fresh clothes out of the dirty laundry. The dog smelled it. They took them to the basement door. The dog went straight down the dog trail to Ben Hill Road down there. And the dog circled when it got down there and lost the scent. To me, meaning that she was thrown in a car and drove out of here. Okay. So the footprints, okay, if you go out on Ben Hill Road and you go west, so you go past our property all the way to the end, and you get down a little ways west up this way, there's a dirt road. I can't remember the name of the road, but you turn left into that and you'll see a bunch of no trespassing signs and all that. You follow the dirt road and it takes you all the way up on top of that hill up there, which overlooks our property. When you're up there, you can look down on our property and see our house. You're looking down on our house, and we live on a hill, so it's pretty high hill. So there's an unfinished cabin up there. This is the way TBI explained it to me. There's an unfinished cabin up there, and it rained like 2 or 3 days before summer come up missing. So they found a footprint around an unfinished cabin. And I went up there and I looked everywhere, and I don't know what they're talking about, an unfinished cabin. I found a trailer. I found 2 trailers, and the other property I was kind of scared to go up around, but I looked everywhere, and I asked them if I could see the casting, and but they wouldn't never let me see the cast that they made. But so they found a set of footprints there. Okay, the dog hit on the that footprint there. Okay, and then if you come back down out of the hill and you come back down towards Beach Creek, they found footprints there. And that's the only 2 sets of footprints that I'm aware of that they told me about.
All right, so what did you think of that clip? Let me know in the comments. We've known about the footprints since the very early days when Mr. Phillips, one of the Wells neighbours whose land borders the Wells land, he, in the very early days, like in the first week of the case, he went into Facebook groups and talked about the footprints that searchers found on his land. Searchers who found these prints in 2 locations. So there was one near the road, Beach Creek, and then one all the way up the top of the ridge. One of them was on someone else's land, someone very known to the Wells, the land being that of Mary Sexton, who was the sister of Don Wells' stepdad. She died last year, but at the time of Summer's disappearance, she was very much alive. She happens to be I guess it would be the step-grandma, kind of Don Sherfy Jr. But I'm not talking about Don Sherfy Jr. today. I'm focusing on the footprints. But that's just to orientate you. Cam and Ali from Cracking Cases have talked extensively about the footprints. And based on the screenshots from Mr. Phillips and also from his discussion with the daughter of Mary Sexton, people don't often see these screenshots. They see the one where he's talking about the sheriff's deputy and him getting permission, to talk about them. And they said, if you do, be factual. But what people don't often post is his conversation with Christy, who is Mary Sexton's daughter. So it confirms that there was neighbours who knew about these footprints very early on. It's some of the most solid evidence we have about Summer's disappearance, and virtually everybody has ignored it because it doesn't implicate Don and Candus. And I think that's a real shame. And it's why you've got to keep an open mind and you've got to follow the evidence, regardless of how popular it is. Regardless of if you're a creator, how many people unsubscribe, because I know people will. They'll unsubscribe after hearing this video. They will. But you've got to follow the evidence. That's what I've been doing. You've got to discuss every case in that way. Follow the evidence. Regardless of what that evidence is telling you, really. Follow the evidence. But don't become tunnel visioned, because that's bad as well. I've got loads of videos talking about the scientific method of investigation. But for the sake of brevity and for the fact that I've been waffling too much and going off on tangents in this video, I'll keep it squarely on the footprints. Neighbours have known about these footprints. I tweeted Leslie Earhart from the TBI a while ago asking her if she could confirm whether the footprints existed, even though we know they did because neighbours have talked about them. So this is not Don Wells making stuff up to take the heat off him. It absolutely is not. This was known by neighbours very early on in the case. Leslie didn't reply, which was annoying. But it's not just the neighbours that have talked about the footprints, it's also Dave Rader from Equisearch, because the footprints were found on the 19th of June, so 4 days after Summer disappeared. Searchers had already been through that area once, so they were very lucky to find find these footprints. And they searched through the night. One of the neighbours from Beach Creek filmed it. They searched through the night, thinking that they were going to find Summer. I'll put a link to a video that I did ages ago on this. And in that video, there's a clip from Dave Rader talking about that search. It's from Police Off the Cuff, but he's also talked to Duty Ron about them. He said, can't speak to the truthfulness of it because he wasn't there. He actually got into town that night, but was told about the footprints the following day. And then he went on to talk about the search and what the searchers believed after they'd found this significant evidence. Not specifically mentioning the footprints, but mentioning significant evidence. In the presser from the 21st of June, it was mentioned. I think it was one of the reporters that asked the question. If I remember rightly, that's what happened. So go and watch that presser. I'll leave a link to it in the cards right there. There's all these things that people have passed by. And Dave Rader actually said that the searchers believed that they were going to find Summer that night because there was of this significant evidence, which we know to be footprints. And Mr. Phillips got permission to talk about them, but he took all his posts down because he got ridiculed. His family was targeted. Scary. Don has given us a few little nuggets, a few little tidbits of information that I wasn't aware of. So he said that her scent went down the dog trail. I'm still unsure whether it's the dog trail or the driveway, but he said dog trail, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which trail. Her scent went off the property and then the dog lost it at the road. We know that's true because Sheriff Ronnie Lawson has talked about it. We know that is true. The dogs lost the scent on Ben Hill Road. So what Don said made a lot of sense, right? And he knows that casts have been taken of these footprints. He's not been allowed to see them because of evidence, but he said the casts were made of these footprints. It's a search dog specifically looking for Summer's scent that found them. And what he said, this scenario he painted made a lot of sense. That at Ben Hill Road, she was put in a vehicle, and then there is a dirt track. This is the bit that I didn't know. There's a dirt track that leads off Beach Creek Road. So I'll put a map up. I think it's this track here, I'm not sure though. Near the road, up this track, that's where one of the footprints was found. So it's almost like she was taken out of a vehicle at that point, set down. So because there'd been rain a couple of days before, there was like some muddy patches, so she'd been set down, and that's where one of the footprints came from. And then maybe then she was carried. So by the time the search dogs found this footprint on the 19th, because she was carried, there was no scent on the ground to follow. Scent in the air dissipates much more quickly. And then they found another footprint on a ridge near an old cabin or something, and there's a couple of trailers up there, and that's where the other footprint was found. So that could be it, because we've never known which direction the footprints have gone in. We've never known that. So what if she was driven from Ben Hill Road just round to Beach Creek, so not far, up that dirt track, taken out of a vehicle there, taken to that cabin, and then taken back out, carrying her but not set down, and then whatever happened then, who knows. That makes sense to me. It's horrible. It's really horrible, but we've got to consider these possibilities. Summer's been missing, going on for 20 months, 19 and a half months. Summer's now 7 years old. She's missed out on so much. Completely. She needs to be found. She just needs to be found at this point. and the person or persons responsible brought to justice. Now, this woman who came up on Prayer Garden's panel was saying that she's very suspicious of Fred Hill. I'm suspicious of everyone. Fred Hill has some red flags, in my opinion. The amount of lies he's told is problematic. He's told some truths, though. The way he's implicated Andy, and I don't know. Does he have guilty knowledge? He wasn't there at the time, he said, that Summer disappeared. I don't know. I'm not going to say that Fred Hill did it, I'm not. But it's just interesting. An interesting discussion. Also, I'll play you another little clip. Don mentioned what Fred had said about his friend, Fred's friend, I think he's called Chad, although Don didn't remember his name, who saw Candus on the driveway. And this was pinned at about 4:30. Now, Don said when she was looking for Summer, she did go to Fred's.
When Candace was looking for Summer and she got in her mama's truck, she went driving. She went and talked to Dawn, our neighbor over here on the corner. And then she went and drove back down Ben Hill Road to the back to Fred Hill's house. And what's his name? I can't remember his name now.
George or
who?
Forget. Was it George or?
No, who was back there when you went back there, Candace? I can't remember his name, but he was there. Fred was gone, and she asked him. I'll remember his name in a minute. But she asked him if he'd seen Summer, and he said no. But he lived down the road here.
That's true that she would have been seen in the area of Fred's, but that's when she was looking for Summer. So was that after the 911 call, in between the 911 call and the searchers turning up and the cops? And Chad's got the time wrong. Or did Candice go out twice? That Summer was missing a lot longer than she told the cops. And she was out there searching at 4:30. These are viable possibilities. And every angle needs to be explored. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. This thing has got a bit longer than anticipated. I'm going to edit out some of my waffle. And I'll speak to you very soon. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. See you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington, who's getting barked at. She'll go. Tilly. Oh, she didn't. See? Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Don't rise to it. Come on, Cass. So it's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Cassie. Come on, Cass. She's in those bushes, scenting something out. There she is. Bye, guys.